But it's a wet Sunday morning as cars form up on the grid. They've had a wet warm-up. David Terrien on the front, Philip Peter, Gary Formato, Nicholas Filiberti, Werner Lutberger on the third row, and that is Scari. John Nielsen alongside him. Row 4, Angelo Zadra, Soyola Yari, and row 5, Alexander van der Lof in the Dutch Racing Ferrari, and Felice Tedici in the Conrero, Riley and Scott Marder, with all the lights stacking up behind. Salvatore Ronca on pole, starting position in the Lucchini. Well, heavy morning rain gives way to sunshine as the field starts its formation lap, but on a still wet track. Tyre choice is critical and all the SR1s, but the Denblavis Peynaud's and the Ascari Judd choose full wets. Nielsen and Lutberger have gone for intermediates. But the R&M Riley and Scott of Gary Formato tried for intermediates too, but they would not fit the chassis, and the car has to start from the back of the grid after taking wets. Ahead of them, 2 hours, 30 minutes of endurance racing with 3 mandatory pit stops and at least 1 driver change. Peter Owen has our onboard camera in the Redman Bright Pilbeam. As the field here at Brno comes through the final essays to take the green lap. Well, Peter is not holding back despite the wet conditions. The former German Formula 3 star pushes his BMS Ferrari into the lead in the first corner, ahead of Terrien. Further back, Formato, starting from the back, remember, has already made up several places. Sunshine coming and going in the forested Czech Republic circuit. And still the experienced Austrian Philip Peter holding off David Terrien. Then the Peynaud's. Then Zadra. End of the first lap, and the Austrian still leads from Terrien, Nielsen, Filiberti it is, and Lutberger in the new Ascari. What a great start by Werner Lutberger. In lights, Ronca is leading Monty despite falling ill this morning. He's going to try and complete his shift before he hands over to Franchione. Still that lead battle with Peter, and behind them the Ascari still up there. The car incidentally featuring a full carbon fibre tub for the ultra-low A410. And John McNeil has race-prepared the car. 625 brake horsepower, they reckon. Transmission breakage cost the team a place in this year's Le Mans 24 Hours, but they're hoping to make up for those problems today. There it is, the silver Ascari. End of the first lap. Up the long hill. And the Austrian still leading from Terrien, from Nielsen. On board with Owen in the Pilbeam Nissan. The car shared with Brian Redman in the Daytona 250 and driven into 4th place in lights. Whoa, Owen almost loses it in the wet there. As Peter still leads in the car, he will later hand over to Marco Zadra, still on full wet weather tyres. It's still damp enough for them, but Big John Nielsen's choice of intermediates is looking the better one. He's climbing all over the back of the Ferrari now. Already through into second, now looking to try and take the lead. Definitely the wet weather king, Denmark's John Nielsen. But behind them, Owen Mildenhall spins the EBRT Schroeder Pilbeam. He's one of only 2 light starters on slicks, and that'll cost the Barcelona Lights winning car any chance of victory as it loses laps in rejoining. Local ace Joseph Kopecki is in a fighting 5th place in the lights battle. He's sharing the BM Dampoli. As meanwhile, up front, John Nielsen is still looking all over the back of Philip Peter. And indeed, the Panos driver takes the plunge, goes round the outside of Peter into turn 1, and to take the lead here at Brno in the Sports Racing World Cup. Minutes of racing. Nielsen leads from Peter, Terrien, Filiberti and Lutberger. In lights, it's Ronca from Monti, Tonetti, Raimondi and Kopecky. Well, John Nielsen, master of the wet, stretches out his lead in the Panos. Forward on intermediate tyres, remember. Still kicking up the damp there as he passes the stranded Deborah BMW of last year's Brno winning PIR Brno Lights team. The Czech driver Robert Pergor, it's been a short SRWC debut, out with gear selection problems. Well, now Nielsen's saving his Pirellis, driving into the wet patches to cool them. Others are following suit. As Lutberger gets to grips with the beautiful Ascari and is now chasing David Terrien for 3rd place. And like Nielsen, the South African is on Pirelli intermediates. Gary Formato into the pits to take Goodyear slicks. Having worked his way through the lights field after starting from the pit lane, he now finds that intermediates too are snagging on the bodywork. He changes to slicks. John Nielsen still leading on intermediates laps. Peter Owens at Little Pilbeam. On board with Owen, who moves over for Nielsen's pursuers, headed by Lutberger, who sensationally snatched 3rd place from Terrien and 2nd from Peter. All the Ferraris, incidentally, are on Pirellis. Nissan V6 Power as the Ferraris too go past. Well, Gary Formato is out of the pits and begins to charge back through the field. On the drying track, slicks are now the tyres to have. He takes Randaccio's Lucchini and then Raimondi's Picchio. But Lutberger is now putting Nielsen under pressure for the lead. The South African's helmet incidentally paying homage to Stefan Beloff, who died in a sports car race at Spa in 1985. Filiberti is running in a lonely 5th place in the GLV Brums 333 SP. But then disaster for Lutberger as the Ascari is pushed into the pits. The gear selection mechanism has come loose. We asked the South African what's happened.
Okay, down here in the pits with Lutberger. Berger, you're having a tremendous race there. You're about to take the lead, I think. Looks like gearbox problems.
In the beginning I was running 6 or 5th, and then we just forgot a brake wire setting between the 2 drivers, and so I got that sorted out, and then we started picking up, got into 4th, 3rd and then 2nd, you know, going for the lead, and then one end, but we can't carry on like that, so I mean, it's just a small problem, but I think if they get that sorted out, go out there and just keep running to get some more laps under our belt, and hopefully can come back next race or wherever we're going from here and do a better job.
Well, what a tragedy. Terrien pits the slicks from 3rd place. As always, the JMB team is the most efficient in the pit lane. For the new and unique GMS BMW, early problems. Sergei Ayari, the former Prost Formula 1 test driver, well down the order but putting valuable kilometres on the car. Engine tuner Heini Mada is here at Brno to assist with the programme. Filiberti, the Argentinian, brings in the GLV Brums Ferrari for slicks, and the team takes the chance to change drivers to Gianni Lavaggi. Lavaggi incidentally recovering from a heavy bout of influenza. Ferrari engine wizard Luigi Dindo gives the 1995 Daytona 24 Hours winner Lavaggi some hot tips. Felipe Peter's now in the pits, everyone changing tyres as the pit lane becomes crowded. Race leader John Nielsen's in for fuel and slicks. But despite quick work by Dave Price Racing, the lead goes to Alex van der Lof, Dutch National Racing Team Ferrari. Big John thunders out of the pits. But van der Lof's lead lasts but one lap until he too has to come in, and his glory is short-lived as the rear wheel nut jams and team owner and co-driver Dick Weinberg can only look on. All this, of course, means that Gary Formato now leads, taking full advantage of his early change onto slick tyres. Terrien in the Geyser Ferrari second after the stops, holding off a hard-charging John Nielsen in the Paynos, while Felipe Peter's lurking in fourth right behind them. There's Formato still leading, and it's beginning to look like Monza all over again, where late rain gave the R&M Riley and Scott victory. It's the other way round this time, as the second place battle comes up to lap Tedeschi's Conrero, Riley and Scott BMW. John Nielsen slipping back into Peter's clutches, and when Philippe pounces, the two cars collide. The Great Dane spins. Collects his thoughts and gives the fast disappearing Ferrari the fist before rejoining. Well, Formato must pit and gives up his hard-won lead to Terrien and his car to Maribaldi. He tells us about his action-packed race.
Gary, it was quite a hectic start to the race, but it seems to be an inspired choice of tyres there. Yeah, look, I knew we had to come in on the outlap because the tyre was touching on the bodywork so badly. We would have probably punctured the tyre or broken the bodywork. So started at the back, and I decided to change to rain tyres when we were in the pits because we didn't have the intermediates didn't feel too well on my outlap, and they were even worse. They just didn't work. I think the conditions were just not for the rain tyres at all. We needed a good set of intermediates, which I don't think we really had here. So I decided to come in early, put the slicks on, and put a gun to my head and just try and not pull the trigger. And it seems to have worked out now, and we made up for a lot of time. So we'll see what happens now.
So David Terrien's now in the lead on lap 43 and flying on the nearly dry track. He sets fastest lap of the race at 1 minute 52.45 seconds, only 2.5 seconds off his dry pole time. Down among the lights, Montes still leading Franchione, but the Spa winner there in the blue car closing fast. Mildenhall and Zacharias are squabbling over sixth.
Philippe, it seems like there's a great deal of good racing going on out there. You were up to second. Do you think you could have got the lead eventually?
Well, it's hard to say. I think they were too far. I think there was about 20 seconds a lead ahead. And unfortunately, I stuck behind the panels for about 10 or 15 laps, and I was able to run 1 second, 1.5 quicker. So at the end, I tried to make a move, and John Nielsen didn't see me, so we touched and he spun out. And from then on, I was by myself, and I could lap 1.5 seconds faster. It was a gamble at the beginning, which tire to go out, and maybe the intermediates would have been the right choice. But a lot of people decided to stay on the rain, so did I too. And we lost a couple of laps before coming in. I lost the radio, and I wanted to put the slicks earlier, so that cost us a lot of time. And if we got close to victory, then maybe the radio was what cost us the victory today.
Well, John Nielsen's in, handing over the Paynos to his new co-driver, Klaus Graf. Graf rejoins in third place as we talk to John Nielsen.
John, there was lots of great battles going on there in the beginning of the race, but eventually you touched with the Scuderia Italia car. What happened?
I don't think I didn't touch with him, he touched me. He just ran straight into my gearbox and spun me off the circuit, which was not really fair, but there you go. Anyway, we're in the race still, and it's okay.
Well, Terrian's now handed over to his JMB Gayser Ferrari teammate Christian Pescatori, who rejoined still in the lead. Such was the Frenchman's pace. Ascari is back on the track with team owner Klaas Vaart at the wheel. It was a nut that fell out of the gear selector. The team's lost 20 laps and is now treating the race as a test session. New cars appearing almost every race weekend now. Well, Redmond Bright Pilbeam has had a trouble-free run after his qualifying gearbox problems and is now 4th in lights. Moving up the order, we join Mark Smithson, Radar's managing director, around the roller coaster Brno circuit. Klaus Graf has been passed by Lavaggi for 3rd and is now under pressure from Marco Zardra's BMS Scuderia Italia Ferrari. But there's problems. Massimo Perazza's SCI Lucchini is off the track. The efficient check marshals push him out of a dangerous position in which he's stopped and back into the race. Marco Zardra, son of Angelo Zardra and the sister BMS cars, looking to pass German Graf for 4th. Pescatori, meantime, now has a good lead over Baldi. In 2nd. Zardra finally passes Graf and sets off after Lavaggi for 3rd place. So after 1 hour, 30 minutes of racing, Pescatori leads from Baldi, Lavaggi, Marco Zardra and Graf. And in the lights, it's Franchioni from Massimo Saccomano, Renato Nobili, Mark Smithson and Niklas Loven. Back after the break. Racing World Cup at Brno in the Czech Republic, where Gianni Lavaggi is maintaining his 3rd place in the GLB Brooms Ferrari 333 SP. Ahead of him is Monza winner Maribaldi, having an uphill struggle, trying to reduce the 20-second gap to race leader Christian Pescatori. They started, remember, from the back of the grid after having to change tyres after the formation lap. Tampoli Alfa Romeo of Mid-Ohio driver BJ Zacharias is 5th in lights. They won both the lights rounds at Daytona and Elkhart Lake. Lights-only races, those, for the Sports Racing World Cup. Oh, but Massimo Perazza's off the track again, and SCI team boss Ranieri Orandaccio will not be any too happy about this. Well, the JMB pit board shows that the lead for Pescatori is now 19 seconds as Pesca flashes past. Baldi has marginally closed the gap as he too passes the pit wall. The Pier Giuseppe Peroni, Leonardo Maddalena, Siliprandi Lucchini is running 6th in lights, as reliable as ever. They won in Enna-Pegusa last year, and here's Lavaggi, who despite that dose of influenza is on course for his 2nd podium of 2000 after winning at Manicourt last year. Then it was of Minardi F1 driver Gaston Mazzacane, now it's of Argentine rookie Nicolas Filiberti. Well, Pesca makes his final pit stop and stays in the car. Terrian has done his afternoon's work. All's looking good for win number 2. Maribaldi, though, has settled for 2nd place now, 30 seconds back. But anything, of course, can happen in the next 40 minutes. Remember, Pescatori's differential failure at Spa. Driving the Paynors, Klaus Graf is racing towards 4th place. The racing school instructor was double Formula Ford champion in Germany and Austria in 1993 and finished 3rd here in Brno in the Lanzanti Ferrari of Ray Billum in 1998. He was also, of course, an Audi factory driver in the German STW Touring Car Series. Franchione behind him on course for his 2nd consecutive win, having missed the US races. Team owner Giorgio Lucchini and Franchione's girlfriend watch anxiously from the pit lane. Lutberger leaves the pits after a routine stop in the Ascari, but listen to this. The pit lane rev limiter is stuck. Lavaggi in traffic. Passing Mauro Prospero's little Picchio. And Niklas Luyen on his way to 8 points in 5th place in light, sharing with Zacharias. As we go on board again with Mark Smithson, the Pilbeam heading up through the S's. Onto the pit straight. And past our timing gun at 265 kilometres an hour. But the silver Pilbeam Nissan V6 is now up to 3rd in lights, looking good to keep its title lead from Loven and Zacharias. Maribaldi is now being attacked by Filiberti, who's taken the car back from Lavaggi at their final stop. The battle for 2nd is on with a vengeance, but can he close up at all? Bolivian driver Felipe Ortiz and the Conrero, Riley and Scott, running in 13th place after various mid-race problems, and again, lights leader Franchione. Well, there's tense faces in the JMB Geyser pit. Terrien perhaps keeps thinking of Spa. Pescatori laps Andrea De Lorenzi's Durango GMS, which has broken its clutch and is limping home towards a debut 10th place. There's still plenty of drama out on the track. The race isn't over yet, and Lilian Brinner, so nearly the winner at Spa, goes for the kamikaze approach in traffic. Running 6th, she laps Prospero, and Peroni locks up and nearly slides off. 1 minute to go on the circuit clock, and Pescatori can now cruise as he crosses the line to start his final lap. He has 49 seconds in hand. But behind him, an exhausted Maribaldi has his mirrors full of Filiberti and fights to the finish to keep 2nd place by just 1 second. Pescatori takes the checkered flag. First for the 2nd time this year, to the joy of Jean-Marie Buresh and his JMB team on the pit wall. JMB Geyser now has a 20-point lead over Baldi and Formato. A good afternoon's work by Pescatori and Terrien. Confirmation of the result, JMB Geyser Ferrari first with Terrien and Pescatori, 2nd Baldi and Formato for the R&M Riley and Scott team, in 3rd place Lavaggi and Filiberti in their GLV Brooms Ferrari. Paynor picks up 5th there behind Peter and Zadra.